Hey guys, I'm back with the next part of our Blazing blog app using Blazor server. So in this app we have created this app and we have implemented login logout authentication functionality. We have worked on manage categories, so list categories, creating a new category, editing a category. Then in previous video we worked on this manage blogs page. So here we list all the blog posts we have in our database, and in this video we are going to work on this add new blog post. So right now it has this dummy link, so we'll work on this section in this video. So before continuing on this video, I would recommend you all to check out all the previous parts of this series to sync up, and I'm going to drop links of all those parts in the description box, so please do check those out before continuing on this one. Okay, so first thing we need to create that page for saving a blog. So for that, let's go to pages, then admin folder, and here we'll create a new Razor component and we'll name it save blog, save blog.razor. Okay, first thing we need to have the URL. This component will be routable component, so we'll follow the same approach we are following for category, or we can check this in the top nav bar, the URL. So this URL we already set up, so we'll use this URL, manage blogs. Let me zoom it a bit here. So we'll add this here, and we'll use this same page for editing a blog as well. So let's add another page attribute where we'll say edit, and here we'll add a blog ID. So we'll say URL blog ID, and this is going to be nullable int, because if we are creating new page, new blog, then there will be nothing. So manage blogs slash, let's say, new. This is for creating a new blog, and the second one is for editing an existing blog. Fine. Next thing, we will have our design. We'll start our design same as we have this on this manage categories. So div class container, and then this header section. So table dialog, and let's copy this section, div, and we should be good. Manage categories. So instead of manage categories, we'll say save blog post, save blog post, and this button, from this button we'll go back to the blogs list, that manage blog page. So we'll say back to manage blog posts, and on click we can remove this. We can use the nav link component, nav link, and here we'll set href to the previous page, the manage blog page, so this page, and the route for this is this thing, slash admin slash manage blog. So we'll do this here, href, and then we'll copy this class, we'll add it here, close this, and let's add this text, and we should be good now. Let's save it, and on manage blogs page we'll change these links. So here href, it will be this, because we are creating the blog here, and then for we need to add the same thing here as well. Fine. And then for editing we have this edit blog post link, so we know the edit URL is this one. So we'll use this to generate the URL. Let's have a string here. We'll say added blog link, and we'll generate this link here. So this part, this should be dynamic. So this thing we'll get from post. So it will be post.id, and we'll use this added blog link to, we'll add it here like this. Save it and let me rerun it. App is here. Let's see the links. Yes, it has generated these new links, and when we click on this, it is not navigating to this link. We cannot see anything here. And why so? Let's check. We have the URL on save blog page /admin manage blogs new, and everything looks fine. What is the issue? Stop and run the app again. App is here. Manage blogs. New. Nothing is happening. If we say add date 123. Save blog does not have property name matching URL. But what if we had this new? Okay. Okay, it is not picking up because of this. Let's add this property here. So we'll add a property here of type nullable int, and we need to have the same name, URL, blog ID, and this should be parameter. We will not use this property for our use. What we'll use private int blog ID, which we'll get from this URL blog ID. URL blog ID. If this has value, we'll use that. If that it does not have any value, then we'll use 0. So we'll use this blog ID in our code, and this is just for getting it from the URL. So let's see if this was the issue. App is here, and we'll go to manage blogs page. We'll go to yes. So now we can go to add new blog post, and we have this back to manage blog post button. We can go back here and from here also. Fine. So the next thing is we need to work on this page. We will add the form here to add the blog post. Fine. So here we need to design our form. For that we will use inside this container, let's have a div class row, and in this row we'll use div class, and for now let's have call sm12 only, the complete width, and here we'll have our complete form. So before adding the form, we need to have a model. For that we'll use private, and we know we have the blog post model. So we'll have this model with default value. Right now we are working on creating a new blog post. We'll modify this for editing the blog post. For now let's have it for create only. In this thing, but next thing we'll have this edit form, and for this edit form we need to pass the model, so we'll use this model. Fine. Now next thing we'll use our data annotation validator to validate the properties. Now we need to design our form. Okay, so we'll start using div class MB3, and first thing we need to have a label with class form label, and first we'll capture title of the blog. Here we'll say input text, bind value, model dot title, class form control, placeholder, enter title, and that's all. After that, we'll add the validation message for model dot title. Cool. Now we need to copy it. Next thing is we need to have the URL slug. So slug, and slug. After that, we'll have the categories. So we'll have a category selection. Now this category, let's have this category ID. We already have list of categories. We need to bind those. So it will be a select input, right? Drop down list. So input select. Yeah. So here we'll use bind value, and this will be model dot category ID. Model dot category ID. Fine. And on this model dot category ID, let's add the same class from control, and in here first option we'll have option value blank, and we'll say select category. And now we need to have all the categories in the drop down. So for that we need to have the list of categories, and for that we'll have a list here, private enumerable of category, and let's say categories. The default value we'll have enumerable dot empty category, and now we will load these categories. So we load these when this page is initializing. So we'll override on initialized async, and in here we'll use our category service. So let's inject that, inject category service, and we'll have the categories await category service dot get categories async. What is the issue? Nothing. Okay. Categories. Now we'll check if we got the categories and it had some value. Then we'll modify our underscore categories, sorry, this categories with this categories. So let's rename one of these. So categories list. Fine. So now we will have these categories, and after this default option select category, we will bind these categories. So we'll say for each where category in categories, and here we'll say option value, it will be category dot id, and the text is going to be category dot name. Okay, we loaded our categories, and after categories we have introduction. So div class, or let me copy one of these, this thing. We have that short introduction, introduction, enter introduction, and this one as well, introduction. Cool. But the introduction, it can be a long text, not much, but more than a text box. So for this, we'll use input text area. Okay. After this, if we go to our blog post model, we'll see ID, title, slug, category ID, user ID. We can get it from the current logged in user. Introduction, all these are audit fields, but this is the main content. So we need to have something for this, which will be rich text editor. Basically, we need a rich text editor for this. So for now, let's have a simple text area. We'll simply check the design, then we'll work on that. So here we'll say the content model dot content, enter content, and model dot content. Fine. After this, we need to have our buttons. Before buttons, let's have one checkbox for this is published flag. So for this, again, let me copy this thing, and here we'll use bootstrap design. So we can get it from getbootstrap.com website. I have that already. Let me copy that. So the design for our nice checkbox, we have div class from check, from switch we will use the switch. Here we need to have our input checkbox. Bind value, we will use model dot is published, and we need to add classes on this. So this is form check input, this class role switch. Okay, and after this we need to have a label with class form check label, form check label, and it will say if this is published or not. Okay, now we need to connect these two, this label and input checkbox. So for that, let's add a ID on this input checkbox. So blog publish chk checkbox, and on this label we'll add 4 attribute. This is pure HTML. This has nothing to do with Blazor. Fine, so we have this thing. After that, we will have our buttons. So let's have a horizontal rule here, before and after. Fine. And here we'll have div class mb3, and here we'll have our buttons. So first button, we'll have a reset button where we'll say class btn and btn danger. It will be red color. We'll say cancel, and then second button, it will be a submit button of color green, so btn success, and here we'll say save. Cool, enough coding. Let's see how it looks. I'm running the app. Okay, app is here. Let me pull it up, manage blogs, add a new blog, and now we can see this form. Fine, let's design some of the things. First thing, okay, we can get the categories as well. This thing is working, this thing is working, everything looks great. And this publish thing is also working. Now, first thing, we need to have these buttons side by side. So this button, this save button should be on right aligned and cancel button should be some on left only. So for this, what we'll do, we'll simply check here on this div, the parent div, we will add display flex and justify content between fine. So let's add this class to the code. This last, fine, this thing. Now we are good with the basic design. Next thing is we need to have that this this content, this as a rich text editor. What you see is what you get editor. So for this we are going to use a third-party package. So let me open the NuGet package manager, and from here we'll search for Blazor text editor, this one. We need this, install this, okay, I accept. And this got installed. Blazor text editor, yes, it got installed. Fine, save all, and now we can use that. But before that, we can add the namespace directly here, or we can add it in the imports.razor file. So if we are using it here only, so it does not matter if we are using it at a single place. The name is Blazor text editor. Where is the manage new web packages? Okay, installed Blazor text editor project URL. Let me open this project URL. And from here we can see the basic things. Install package Blazor text editor, we have installed it. Then we need to add the CSS file, the JS file. So let's do this. So you can follow the steps mentioned in this package on this GitHub. So let's follow this. First we need to add the style sheet in our layout. So let's add this. Let's go to our layout, or index.html page. We can add CSS. Oh, we are using Blazor server, sorry. So for that we need to go to underscore host page. Yes, we need to go to underscore host page, pages underscore host.cshtml. We need to add these. Do we need both of these, or we need only sing? Okay, this is I think the minimal example, so let's use this. Here after this icon we'll add those, fine. After that we need to add the JS, these three JS files. We need to add these, so let's copy these. We'll add these after common, or let's say before common. Okay, save it, and now we can start using it. We need to use this using, and then we can use this. So you can play around with this, but I already tried it, so I know what needs to be done. So I'll jump straight to the code. Save blog. Let's add this using Blazor text editor. Fine. And now we can use this text editor for our content. So here we'll remove this, and here we'll use Blazor text editor. Fine. So I have this already handy. So let me copy it from off screen. Okay, so I have this here. Enter content, then we have these toolbar items, heading 1 2 3 4 5, the formatting, bold, italic, underline, main color and background color, then these ULs and OL, order list, and then adding a link. All these things I have this as toolbar content. And then this content, this is Blazor thing. So we have model.content, the HTML content here, and we need to render it. On in MVC Razor pages we have that @html.raw. The same thing we can achieve in here using this markup string. So we can convert this HTML string to, this is raw string basically, we could say. We can convert this and dump it as HTML on the page using this, by converting this to markup string. Fine, we need to have this quill HTML, or let's say we can change it, or let's have it quill HTML only for now. So this is ref of type, we'll say private, and it will be Blazor text editor, Blazor text editor quill HTML, and it should be nullable. Fine, so we have this thing here. No error, nothing. Let's try to run it. Okay, app is here. Manage blogs, create a new blog, and we can see this. We have this thing, right? We can do this. Let's select some item, make it bold, change the background color, and let's add the numbering, and things are working. We successfully added the Blazor text editor. Now next thing is we need to fill out this form and then save the blog post. Okay, so for that, let's see if we have our service for blog post. So we have blog post service. We are getting the list of blogs. Now next thing is we need to have a method to save the blog post. So public async task, let's say save async, and we'll receive the blog post as an input to this method. Okay, now first thing, let's have this. Should we directly use blog post, or we should create a DTO kind of thing? So for category it was not required because category had 2 3 fields only, ID, name and slug. But for blog post we have so many fields, and some of the audit fields and couple of other fields, right? We don't need everything. So let's create a model, and we have method result, right? It should return method result. Fine, first we'll create a model. So public class, let's say save, or let's say blog save model, and in this we'll copy all these properties. Let me copy these Then we'll filter out what all properties we need. Here we'll say we don't need this key because this is uh, entity framework specific, we could say. We'll have all these properties like this only. We don't need this user ID because we are going to pass this separately. Created on, we don't need this. Published on, modified on, we'll use these in business logic, not as a model. Fine, so we need these things: ID, title, slug, category ID, introduction, content is published. All these fields we have on the UI, so we'll use these fields only. Fine, let's move it to a separate class and move type to block save model. And from here we need to convert this block save model to the blog post entity. Okay, so there could be multiple approaches. This is actually debatable where should we have that mapping, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to have that mapping here only. So I'll say public blog post. I'll have an instance method on this. I'll say to blog entity. Fine. And here I'll simply do this: title, slug, category ID, introduction, content is published. Okay, apart from these, do we need any other ID, title? I think this is fine. Apart from these, we need the user ID that we can either pass directly to here. We can have int user ID. This will use user ID equals this user ID. So I think we are good now. Can successfully convert it to blog entity. Cool. And now blog save model. We'll use this blog save model on our page. So we have our page save blog. The model, it will be of type blog save model now. Fine, nothing needs to be changed in the HTML. Okay, now let's go to our service and we'll receive this blog save model. And apart from this, we'll receive an user ID. What is the user ID? It is who's making this request. Okay, now we'll save it. So first thing we need to have our model. What is this barrier? Where let's say model only, and we'll get it from post dot to blog entity, or let's call it entity. Fine, we need to pass this user ID, user ID. Fine, we have this entity here. Next thing is we'll check if this entity dot id is greater than 0 or no. Well, let's say if it is equals 0, that means we are creating a new blog post, and if it is not equals 0, it is greater than 0, that means we are updating an existing blog post. Updating an existing blog post. Fine. So when we are creating a blog post, we will verify the slug, or we could say we need to uh, slugify the slug. What if they have added some invalid characters? So for that, what we'll do, entity dot slug equals, we'll say entity dot slug dot to slugify. What was the method name? I forgot. Slugify. Fine. We will do this Slugify. Then we'll simply save it. And for saving, what we'll do, entity dot, we are creating a new blog post, so we can set the created on to date time dot now, and then we'll check if we have set the is published to true. If that's the case, we'll add entity dot published on to the same date time dot now, date time dot now. So this is published, not is published, published on. Okay. After that, we'll add this entity. So we'll add context dot add async, and we'll add this entity. Cool. So creation is okay. We'll work on this editing part later, but for now, let's have it like this only. After this, we will have await, but let's return a method result from here. Method result. Here we'll check if await context dot save change async is greater than 0. That means we saved this. We will return method result dot success. Okay, and let me wrap this thing in a try catch block. If that's not the case, we'll return method result dot failure with error message as ex dot message. Fine. Return. If that's not the case, if it was not able to save, we need to return something. And what that should be, else in that case also it should be success or it should be failure, right? It should be failure, but the message should be, because if this is the case, then we don't know what went wrong. At least for create new case. For editing, we'll see there is one case. If we are editing an entity and nothing has changed, then the save changes async, it actually returns 0. We'll handle that later. But for now, let's use for this saving part only. So from here, we'll say unknown error in while saving in the blog post. Unknown error occurred. This is kind of edge case in this case when we are creating a new blog post. Fine, save it, and now we'll use this thing on our save blog page. Fine. So for that, let me add a method here, private async task task save blog async, and here we'll call this, from here we'll say on valid submit, we'll say save blog async, and we'll inject our blog post service, blog post service, and we'll use that here. So blog post service, but before that we need to have a loading indicator, private bool is loading with default value false. So first thing we'll set the is loading to true, is loading true. Then if it came to this exception, right now we are not throwing these, we'll say is loading equals false, and we'll show the error message. We'll show it later. For now, let's try to save it. So where result equals await blog post service dot save async, and we need to pass the blog post, which is our model, and the second parameter, which is our user id, and that user id we can get from where we having it in login page, right? So blog state provider from blog state provider we can get the logged in user, right? So let's inject this blog state provider. Blog auth state provider dot logged in user dot user id. We have this user id here. Cool. Now we'll check if result dot status. If this is true, that means the saving was done. If that's not the case, we'll show the error message. Fine. So let's have a string and a label string for error message. Error message. The default value will be null, error message, and we'll set that error message when we are having any exception, and tx.message. Same thing we'll have here. So we'll say error message equals result dot message if we got some. If not, then error while saving, or error in saving blog post. Please try again. Cool. If result dot status is successful, that means blog post was saved successfully. In that case, we should navigate user back to the manage blogs page, right? So for that, we'll inject navigation manager, inject navigation manager, navigation manager. Let's use this navigation manager dot navigate to, and here we'll use this URL admin slash manage blogs, and we should be good now, and return from here. Cool. I think everything is in place now. Just two things we need to show the errors. So we'll show that here. So we'll add a p, but it will be only if we have some errors. A string dot is null or white space error message. We'll add a p tag here, p, where we'll display this error message in red color. So p class text danger. Fine. And if that loading is true, in that case, what we'll do, we'll simply have something here which will display the loading indicator. So we'll say if underscore is loading is true, then we'll simply show a loading indicator here. So we'll say div class deflex align item center to center vertically, and let's div. And here we'll have the Okay, let me get it from Bootstrap. So we'll say get bootstrap.com. I messed up with the URL. Get bootstrap.com. And from here, docs. And in docs, we'll go for spinners. Spinners. We have these spinners, so we'll copy one of these. Which version of Bootstrap we are using? Using www root css bootstrap main. We are using 5.1. This is 5.3. Let's go to 5.1. 5.1, and we have spinners, which is we can get any of the spinner. So, close, text align, text center. Let's copy this one. So let's have it here. Div class text center, loading, spinner border. Okay, if that's not the case, then we'll display our form. Fine. Okay, let's run it. It's here. Let me pull it up. Manage blogs. Create blog post. Let's try something just dummy. And we need to have the same implementation we have for categories, right? If we move out of this title, then it should automatically generate this slug. But for now, let's use like this only. Category, some short introduction, some content, make it publish. Let's save it. Content field is required. It is not modifying this content field, and why it's so. Let's check. Manage blogs. So we had this quill HTML reference. We need to get the content from here, and for that we need to get it from the save blog async. Okay, in that case we need to have manual validation for content. First thing, we need to get the content, that we can get model.content equals, we have this quill HTML, we can get content and get HTML like this. After this, we'll check if this model.content has some value or not. And the issue is this is awaitable. Await. We'll check here if string dot is null or white space model.content. We'll set error message, content is required, and we'll simply return from here. And if we are doing this, we need to remove the data annotation validation, this required from here, and on the entity side we have this required. So in database we'll have the actual value with validation. Fine, let's rerun. It's here, manage blogs, create a new blog post, again same thing, copy, paste, select. Okay, published, save. We can see the loading indicator. and nothing is happening. Why so? Let's have a breakpoint. Save blog, and we'll have a breakpoint, let's say here only, and after that we'll have a breakpoint here. Fine, let's rerun. Manage blogs, create, we have this, published, and save. Breakpoint, we got our content. What is loading? True, this thing. We came here, entity, slug generated, created on, published, add async, save changes, and we got an error occurred while saving this entity changes. See the inner exception, and inner exception says about user ID. And we did set user ID, right? User ID is 0. How come user ID be 0? Logged in user ID. Okay, let's continue. Back, next. Logged in user. Logged in user. What is the issue here? We have logged in user. If it is not authenticated, login is saying log out, dispose. If the user is not logged in, then how come it is displaying everything? That means user is already logged in. Get claim principal, authenticate state. Authentication state changed. We set user ID, we set display name, and we set logged in user. Now we should have this logged in user. Save async user ID 0, which does not make sense. Save. Shift F9 is empty. True. User ID 0. Logged in. Display name. If display name is, how come it is displaying this sub apparent? That means it is logged in. Okay, what am I missing? If you guys know, please do let me know in the comment. I will try to investigate what is the missing piece. Okay, so I'll continue this in the next part. Till the time, if you know what is wrong, what am I missing, please do let me know in the comments. And please like this video, share this video, and subscribe my channel. I'll be back soon with the update with the next part. Bye bye.